Let's go to question number 9. Jay Towles says, hey, Pastor Mike, in Matthew 22, verses 23 through 29, Jesus rebukes the Sadducees for trying to trap him, saying they don't know the scriptures. Where in the scriptures is this topic of marriage in heaven mentioned? Well, that's a really good question. I wonder if I can remember the answer off the top of my head. Let's just read through the verses and we'll see if it jogs my memory. The same day, Sadducees came to him, who say that there is no resurrection. And they asked him a question. Now, the context, right? The Sadducees, they're so sad, you see. It's because they don't believe in a resurrection. They're going to try to ask Jesus a stump question that's meant to demonstrate that the idea of a resurrection is silly. So they said, Teacher, Moses said, if a man dies having no children, his brother must marry the widow. That's Levite marriage we talked about earlier. And raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers among us. The first married and died, having no offspring, left his wife to his brother. So too the third, down to the 7th. That lady has a lot of bad luck. After them all, the woman died. In the resurrection, therefore, of the 7, whose wife will she be? For they all had her. Now you can tell this is the kind of thing the Sadducees always brought to the Pharisees, because the Pharisees did believe in the resurrection. And they probably brought it to them all the time. Oh yeah, whose wife will she be? Whose wife will she be? And then the Pharisees probably debated, well, will she be the first husband's wife or the last husband's wife? None of them had any kids, so we can't say she'll be the wife of the one that had the kids. Like, how do we solve this conundrum? So Jesus answered them, you are wrong. You know, for the tone police on the internet, who are always like, even when you say something true, they're like, well, you shouldn't have said it like that. I mean, that sometimes is true. You shouldn't say it like that. That is occasionally true. But you hear it every time you say anything online. There's someone going, well, I don't really think that was the right way that was the best way to say that. Like, I always think of Jesus saying things like this and how they would all say it to him, right? You are wrong because you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God. Now, Jesus, do you think that built a bridge with the Sadducees? Do you think they left there more likely to accept and embrace your love? Or do you think they left there bitter and hurt and bothered? And I'm just saying, guys, we can't base all of our interactions on the emotional response of those we're talking to. Even though we consider it, it's not the whole story. All right, so you're wrong. You don't know the scriptures or the power of God. So there's something they don't know about the scriptures. Then Jesus goes on, in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. As for the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was said to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He's not the God of the dead, but of the living. So the question is this. When Jesus says they don't know the scriptures, is he talking about they don't know that there's scripture teaching that marriage doesn't happen in heaven, or that they don't know there's scripture saying that the resurrection is real? And I think I'm inclined to go with the latter. And here's the reason why. Jesus offers a judgment on the resurrection. In the resurrection, they don't marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels in heaven. They aren't angels. They're like the angels in regards to marriage. Angels don't marry, and we won't either. But when it comes to the resurrection of the dead, then he offers a scripture. So it might be that in your question that the way to make sense of it is to think, oh, Jesus is perhaps offering a specific judgment on marriage to explain the riddle, but he's offering a scripture on the resurrection. And here he quotes from the Old Testament where God speaks and he says, I'm the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. Now, all of those 3 men were dead at the time when God said it. They were already dead, but God still is their God. Not I was the God of Abraham. I am the God of Abraham, meaning Abraham, I'm still his God. I'm still Isaac's God. I'm still Jacob's God. So Jesus says he's not the God of the dead, but the living. He can't be like, I am your God still if you're dead, if you're like dead, like you're gone, like you've ceased to exist and you have no future. And so I'm going to suggest that maybe this is my working hypothesis here, right? Maybe what Jesus is doing is offering a scripture to support the resurrection and a judgment on the nature of the resurrection, that he's a revelation, something new information that explains an answer to a riddle.